This meeting will be conducted as a Zoom webinar to allow for public participation and comments. The Contra Costa Transportation Authority does not condone hate speech in any form. We continually strive to make life better for all members of our community and create an atmosphere
Recording in progress.
with a sense of safety and belonging. We ask that anyone who wishes to speak does so with civility, respect, and kindness for others. Citizens will have 3 minutes to speak. It is requested that public speakers state their names and organizations, but providing such information is voluntary. Citizens participating in person wishing to speak should submit a public speaker card to the clerk. Citizens participating by Zoom wishing to speak should use the raise hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone, and the chair or staff will call upon them at the appropriate time. Written public comments received in accordance with the teleconferencing special notice on the meeting agenda will be provided to the members. If authors of the written correspondence would like to speak, they should raise their hand in Zoom or submit a public speaker card, and the chair will call upon them at the appropriate time. All written correspondence received after that and during the meeting will be entered into the record. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
All right, thank you. Deanna, will you conduct roll call?
Yes, good afternoon. Member Birdwell,
Here.
Member Cooney, Member Dowgelli, Alternate Member Franklin, Member Ibarra,
Present.
Alternate Member Ridgway,
Present.
Alternate Member Sanderson,
Here.
Member Perry,
Here.
Member Reese Brown, Member Sanders, Member Thompson,
Here.
Member Toth,
Here.
Vice Chair Smith,
Here.
and Chair Clark.
Here. Thank you.
We do have a quorum, with members Cooney, Dowgelli, Green, Roselle, Reese, Brown absent. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Do we have any written public comment?
We do not have any written public comment.
All right. Is there anyone who wishes to speak during the public comment on an item that is not part of the agenda? You may raise your virtual hand and staff or I will call on you.
We have Alicia Jackson.
Thank you.
Good morning, or good afternoon. My name is Alicia Jackson. I am a DDC board member, and we broke off into groups, and we like to talk about, and one of our subjects is transportation, and some of the concerns that we have. One of the biggest concerns is ways for people with speech impairments to communicate with paratransit. And I mean, we was thinking of ways like maybe we could come up with a text message system or email system. And then not only with those with speech impairments, like for instance, my son, he doesn't even have no language. And so it's hard for our people to communicate, to even see about getting a ride with paratransit. And then we would like to see if we could get a text option or an email option to go with so they could better communicate with paratransit in order to get their rides and to make sure that their schedules are working well for them. Please excuse me. This is my first time, in front of you guys, and so please excuse me. I'm a little nervous. And some of our other concerns is like the phone number for the county connection to connect to specific route status. And these we need more accessibility to that. And then the county connect route maps is difficult to use when it comes to boundaries, and we need training to use BART and bus apps for people who support users. We also are discussing and talking about providing information assistance to obtain discount cards. And so those are just some of the things that we are talking about in this side group to the district, to the DDC. And it's one person that should be on Zoom now. Her name is Nicole, and she has a speech impairment, Not only her, we have other ones with speech impairments or difficulty communicating what they need and how they need it. Some may even be shy. And so, but like I say, even in terms of my son, he has no language. And so we would like for this board to consider helping us improve better ways for those with speech impairments or no language to communicate in order for them to have reliable transportation. And so I believe that's all for right now. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. It sounds like then we do have another public comment. Okay.
Yes, Jim Donnelly.
Yeah, this is Jim Donnelly from the Senior Mobility Action Council. Just letting you know I'm here when you get around to asking about us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have another one.
I believe our first public commenter said there was an additional public commenter. Did we get a speaker card for that?
No, but I do think she's on.
Okay.
Let me just double check here.
As a point of clarification, I know we don't respond to public comments, but like answer questions that are in public comments, but can we make a comment to a public comment? I don't know the protocol around that.
I think that's okay, yes.
So is that caller still on who made the comment?
Yes.
Okay, I want to first of all thank you for calling. I want to thank you for commenting. I know it's hard to be in a public body for a first time, so I appreciate that, and I appreciate your nerves. And I want to encourage you, there are a lot of opportunities for engagement in accessible transportation advocacy. My name is Debbie Toth, and you can reach out to me via email at dtoth@choiceandaging.org. I may have my contact at CCTA, but I would love to help you elevate your voice on a broader spectrum if you are interested. Thank you.
So we do have Nicole Boslodge. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I believe we also have a member of our board that's going to speak.
Yep, this is Bai Ibarra speaking, and that public comment was from Nicole Buslag, who is a board member on the Developmental Disabilities Council, for which I am staff. And I'm sure you heard the emotion in Nicole's words, and just to make sure that the words themselves were clear, she has emailed me her statement and asked me to revoice it. So this is from Nicole. My name is Nicole Buslag. I am one of your riders using the One Seat program that you pick up almost every Monday morning at 8:45. But most of the time, my ride is late to pick me up, which makes me late for work. Or you're late to pick me up from work. I am talking about 2 hours to 3 hours late both ways. I'm in a wheelchair. I cannot get a different ride. I have no other options. I'm in your hands because I have no way of getting to work or to my Developmental Disabilities Council meetings. I'm a board member of the DD Council, and sometimes I can't go because I can't get a ride to the meeting. I know what the process is and that I have to call to request a ride, and I do. The problem is that your system to request rides does not meet my needs. The only way to request a ride is by calling. The people who answer those calls have been very mean to me when they cannot understand me. I am an independent person, and I want to do things for myself. You have no idea how it makes me feel when they are rude to me. I have 2 ideas for you. The first one is having a texting app for people who are not able to speak or not speak very well. Being able to text with the schedulers would improve our communication. The second one is to have all of your staff in wheelchairs for a week and see how they feel about it, so maybe they can understand that people with a disability are people too. Thank you for your time, Nicole Buslag. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to email me, and she provided her email address.
Thank you. We have some, thank you very much. You've made a number of us tear up on the board, so I think we are hearing you. So thank you. Do I have any comment from the board?
I just want to, this is Debbie Toth. I want to thank you very much for sharing your story with us and your words with us. And I know that this is going to help improve things for lots of other people as well as for you. Thank you.
Member Sanderson?
Yeah, Nicole, thank you very much for sharing with us. My name is John Sanderson. I'm the Director of ADA and Specialized Services at County Connection. And we do run the One Seat program, as you know. I heard a number of things in your comments that I think we can do a lot more pretty easily to address. And I want to make sure that we take the opportunity to do that and to learn these lessons and make it work for you. So I will be reaching out to you by email. I believe we have your email address. Yeah, expect my email in the next day or two. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Member Sanderson. Anybody else? Member Perry?
Hi, Nicole. My name is Deanna Perry. I'm Manager of Accessible Services at Tri-Delta Transit. I am very familiar with you. I know we've spoke before, and I appreciate you coming today. This was a topic that came up fairly recently that I brought up at Tri-Delta Transit because I've had individuals ask about texting, and we have a new phone system that I've been told that has that capability. I'm still digging into that at this point, but I appreciate that you came to bring your comments because it opens a lot of our eyes, not only people who sit on the PCC, but others, and we will be sharing this information and coming up with ways to make improvements. So I thank you for your comments.
Anybody else? I echo that. Thank you very much for all of you that came to speak on this, especially, and to raise your voices. Thank you so much. Do we have any other in-person or remote public comment?
We do not have any other comment, thank you.
Okay, that concludes our public comment item. The next item on the agenda is the consent calendar, which includes a summary of actions from the September 16th, 2024 meeting. Are there any changes or comments from the committee? Okay. If anybody from the public would like to speak on this item, please raise your virtual hand or submit a public speaker card, and staff or I will call on you. Deanna, have we received any written in-person or remote public comment?
We have not received any written in-person or remote public comment. Thank you.
So there's no public comment, there's no change or comment from the committee. So do I have a motion and a second?
This is Kim Ridgway. I move the motion.
I'll second. I have a motion by Ridgway and a second by Birdwell. Thank you very much. And then we have, oh, I'm sorry,
And
Deanna
I can
needs to do
conduct
a
roll call.
call.
Sure. Member Birdwell,
Yes.
Member Ibarra,
Yes.
Member Ridgway,
Yes.
Member Sanderson,
Aye.
Member Perry,
Yes.
Member Sanders,
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Vice Chair, or Member Toth.
I'm going to abstain. I wasn't here. Thank you.
You're welcome. Vice Chair Smith
Yes.
and Chair Clark.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously with members Cooney, Dowdjelly, Reese Brown absent. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We have two regular agenda items, both of which are action items. The first is an action item that Rashida will be presenting alongside with the City of Richmond staff on the City of Richmond's Paratransit Performance Improvement Plan and plan requirements and metrics. Thank you.
Good afternoon, board members. This is Rashida Kamara with CCTA. I'd like to thank all of you for being here. This has been almost a year-long process. Before I allow the City of Richmond to give us their presentation, I'd like to make a couple of comments and give some background. First of all, I'd like to thank the City of Richmond for all the hard work that they've put in this process. I know that it has been difficult, uncomfortable, and challenging, but the reason why we're in front of you today, because I do believe that the City of Richmond has put in some really good faith efforts into what we're about to present to you today. In addition to that, I would like to thank the subcommittee, that's members of the PCC subcommittee team. We basically did this to the wire, and the subcommittee came together quite quickly in order to review everything that we're putting in front of you and make a decision. And what it speaks to me is just the collaboration between the transportation programs that we provide for the residents of Contra Costa County, the oversighting committee like the PCC, the funding agencies and gatekeepers like CCTA, and also the dedicated staff. If what we're about to present to you today is quite possibly going to be one of the best success stories, assuming that it goes the way we want it to go today. So I just wanted to go ahead and put that out there and let everybody know that the hard work that we've put in this, I don't think is going to be in vain. So having said that, I'm not going to talk a whole lot more. You have the staff report in front of you. I'm going to allow the City of Richmond to give the presentation and share with the PCC what they've done regarding this performance improvement. And I'll hand it over to LaShonda and also to her consultant, Wayne Tonda.
Thank you, Rashida. Can everyone see the screen? Yes. All right, thank you so much. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is LaShonda White. I'm a Deputy City Manager here at the City of Richmond over Community Services. And transportation is one of the many divisions that sits within Community Services. And for a few years, once transportation came, or Community Services came to me, I have been involved with this topic of paratransit and wanting to make sure that the City of Richmond is doing all that it can to ensure we're providing really great services to eligible clients. And so we are really excited to be here today. I have Wayne Tonda, who's our consultant, who has been instrumental in helping us, meet with staff and talk strategically with staff and analyzing data from our paratransit program, putting in, working on standard operating procedures and just really being a thought partner with me. I really do appreciate his service. He has helped us and will continue to help us as we implement the performance audit recommendations and findings. I do also want to take a moment to echo what Rashida mentioned. I want to thank Rashida. She has been really supportive as a partner. She has helped me personally understand the different, the Measure J claim form and has been patient as I, as a new staff person, have come in and tried to make sure I understand what the requirements are, what the demand is, what the requests are, so that we can work to meet them. So I just want to publicly thank Rashida for her support and working with us. I also want to thank WICTAC staff. I know Corey Riley is on the call, but he has been very supportive as well. And, we've had many, many meetings, more than I think we probably all would have wanted to have, talking about this topic. And just really am thankful for the collaboration with City of Richmond staff from various departments, CCTA staff and their consultant, and WICTAC. I also want to thank the PCC subcommittee. I know you came together very quickly to review all of our documents and come up with questions. So I really do appreciate that, because us being able to receive funding for fiscal year 24 and 25 and have a discussion about this topic is really important to the City of Richmond, so we can continue to provide services. So once again, we are so happy to be here to provide you with an update on our program, as we believe we have moved forward on a path of continuous improvement. We'll continue to do so. And with that, I will turn it over to Wayne Tonda, our consultant. And Wayne, just let me know when you want me to advance the slides. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, LaShonda. Why don't we move on to the first slide? Just a bit of background. The City of Richmond has provided a paratransit service for really a long time, approaching half a century. Its clients are all the seniors in the city, 55 or older, and disabled adults age 18 to 54 who are residents of Richmond, as well as all the unincorporated areas that surround the city. In fact, we'll be showing you a map in just a moment. The method in delivering services has evolved over the past 6 years, incorporating current technologies and business models. Our current programs include the traditional van service provided by city staff and a contractor, and a partnership with Lyft. This has a lot of information. I'll try to take you through it without confusing you too much. The program has 3 components. Over on the left side, it includes the R-Transit, that's the name of the Richmond Paratransit Services, with city vans. The second one is R-Transit with contractor vans, and the third is R-Transit with Lyft. Taking the R-Transit with city vans completely across horizontally, our service is door to door. Its scheduling is done by city staff, and the clients will pay either $4 for regular service and $5 if the service is that same day. The provider of the trip is city staff. The projected ridership for this year, and we feel pretty good about these numbers in terms of accuracy, it's about 2,100. The source of that, the funding source of that service is Measure J. The second line is R-Transit with contractor vans, same service as the city provided service. Our contractor is Transmetro. Projected ridership is a relatively low 600. It was currently funded through ECIA, that's the Environmental Community Investment Act. I refer to it as the Chevron settlement. but the funding will, for the remainder of this year, be through Measure J if the funding is approved. The reason for the low ridership here is basically Transmetro provides any spillover that we can't provide using city vans. What this means is nobody gets denied service in the city of Richmond. The third line, the R Transit with Lyft, is curb to curb, and the clients schedule it themselves. It's just like a normal Lyft or Uber type of service in that regard. The client will pay up to $3. We have some of our clients are low income and they ride for free. The city subsidy is up to $17 more, or in other words, we have a cap of $20. The provider is Lyft. The projected ridership is about 23,000 this year. The source of funding is Measure J, specifically Program 20B. You can see that there's a huge difference between our ridership, and we'll explain why right now. Next slide. Thank you. Well, almost right now. This is a map of our service area. It includes the city of Richmond, that kind of like a maze. It kind of goes in and out among the county areas of North Richmond, East Richmond Heights, Kensington, El Sobrante, Tara Hills, and others. It includes everything in this area except for the incorporated cities of Pinole, San Pablo, and El Cerrito. Next slide. The audit is performed in 2024. As I mentioned the last time I had the opportunity to present to the coordinating council, I thought it was great. And this is just from not a personal, but from a professional perspective. I thought it was really well done. And it's doing something that often audits don't do. And that is, it's getting results. I think I've seen a lot that has happened. A lot of good ideas came out of the audit. But one thing it did do, unfortunately, is it focused on the R Transit van program. And it did that, we believe, in Richmond, because we didn't really properly inform the rest of the community, the paratransit community, of what we were doing the past half dozen years. But the audit focused on 29, or identified 29 recommendations. Key audit recommendations and responses from the city included, first of all, the city was inclined to continue to provide paratransit services. Second one is, if you did, prepare and commit to a performance improvement plan. And thirdly, lower the administrative costs funded by Measure J. Next slide. So what happened subsequent to the audit, post-audit actions, is in July of this year, the city submitted a letter of intent as requested by the CCTA if the city was still interested and intent on continuing operating its paratransit program. The answer was in the affirmative. In August, the city confirmed that it intended to deliver its existing paratransit services during fiscal year 24-25 and presented, as requested, a performance improvement plan. And that was the plan that we had presented to you a month or two ago. Third, the city prepared a performance improvement plan. Oh, in fact, I jumped ahead. Was presented to the PCC on September 16th. The next item is the city council reduced the cost pool allocation for the Measure J funded program from $490,000 to $139,000 for fiscal year 24-25. Lastly, the city pursued the elements of the performance improvement plan and is usually using the monthly performance and financial reports to monitor, evaluate, and improve services. Our most recent effort was our bi-weekly meeting today, where we went over about a half a dozen items and how we're going to address the concerns that were identified not only in the audit, but concerns that we have as a result of the review of the data that we now have available. Next item. Continuing on with the post-audit actions, in November, CCTA staff shared with us a document. It's in your packet called Condition of Continued Service Funding, Requirements and Metrics. In other words, the review plan. It was for the purpose of facilitating the oversight of the city's progress and successful implementation of the performance improvement plan. Lastly, the review plan also connects the city's success in achieving its performance improvement plan with the funding of the Richmond Measure J claims for previous fiscal years. Next slide. We're starting to wrap it up right now by saying that the Richmond Paratransit service is really a unique program. It consists of two complementary programs. The LIFT program has grown at a phenomenal rate. The projected ridership, as I mentioned several times before, is estimated to be 20,000 trips. In fact, it may very well be more than that. That's nearly a 300% increase in annual trips from just 3 years ago. The use of the LIFT program, however, has reduced the number of clients who use the city's original paratransit van program. The number of van drivers has shrunk, as an example, from a high of 11 to just 2 today. The service of choice for many ambulatory riders is LIFT, while those who require assisted door-to-door service choose the city's van service. The balance between these programs will be analyzed in 24-25, and our findings reflected in our future Measure J claims. A little bit more information about the LIFT. I had mentioned the fantastic, phenomenal increase over the past 3 years. In fiscal year 21-22, our ridership was 8,000, and this was a few years after LIFT was initially introduced. The following year, it had increased almost 13,000. Last year, it was at 17,000. And again, right now, and in fact, in October, our clip was at 2,000 a month, which means if you use that number, we'd be at about 25,000 by the end of the fiscal year. The revised claim is complete and we believe accurate. The claim is responsive to all of the CTA audit recommendations. The Measure J funding program for Program 15 and Program 20B are within the CCTA and West Contra Costa Transportation Commission set-asides for the city of Richmond. And of course, as you may be very well aware, the WCCTC approved our allocation subject to a final decision by the PCC and the CCTA regarding Measure J. The receipt of Measure J funding for fiscal year 24-25 will provide more than 25,000 trips for our seniors and disabled. In conclusion, the fiscal year 24-25 claim describes the city's full paratransit service, something that was not done in previous Measure J claim submittals. The claim is responsive to the recommendations of the audit. The claim reflects the efforts and cooperation of the staff of the City of Richmond, the CCTA, and the WCCTC. City of Richmond requests that the PCC and the CCTA approve our Measure J claim that includes funding from Program 15 and Program 20B in the amount of $1,262,574. That I'd like to turn it back to LaShonda.
Thank you so much, Wayne. I really do appreciate, again, all your support in working with the City of Richmond. And as Wayne stated, he is meeting with paratransit staff and going over in detail the data. So there's an analysis. We're not just taking the data and putting it in a system. We are analyzing and having conversations with our vendor that we've moved from Route Match to VIA. And so we're doing a lot of internal work. And also we have increased our outreach, which is, I think, evident in how you have seen the numbers increase for LIFT. So we're going out and talking about our paratransit program holistically. And what we're seeing is, as Wayne stated, people are opting in to LIFT as it is 24/7. So they can get places after hours and on the weekends. And it provides a lot of flexibility and freedom, especially for our seniors. And they have shared that with us. And so they're very excited about the way in which Richmond Paratransit is moving. We are open to answer any questions any of you have. And thank you again to staff and to the PCC.
Thank you, LaShonda. So just a point of clarification. This presentation that has been given by the City of Richmond staff, it is a combined presentation. I'm pretty sure that they're giving this exact same presentation to WICTAC because there are at least two pots of money that eventually, as they roll this program out, that they will be seeking funding for. But just as a reminder, for the purpose of this particular staff meeting, we're looking for the PCC to recommend, staff is looking for the PCC to recommend that the City of Richmond keep the program under its new guidelines with its key performance indicators and reporting statutes for 24-25. And with that, we'll be more than happy to take questions.
Thank you, LaShonda, Wayne, and Rashida. Do we have any comments from the board? Member Toth.
Hi there. Thank you so much for the presentation. It was illuminating. I have a few questions. So I don't know if I should just blurt them all out or do one at a time. Your preference, Chair?
Go for it.
Go for it. Blurt them all out. All right. The first question is, I want to learn more about the Transit with contractor vans. Was that Transmetro is listed as your provider of the trip? Was there an RFP that went out, and were they the best price? Did they have the longest history? Like, how did that selection come about? When did that selection come about? And does the availability of those rides mirror what you have with the Lyft program? Does it mirror paratransit? What is it attached to, or is it just regular business hours? That's my first, is about that topic. My second is about some of the performance measures that were discussed, and I'm curious about the whether or not the reporting that you're doing is going to be on an annual basis like every other claimant, or if while you are coming into compliance with the audit findings, is it going to be more frequent, like on a quarterly basis, so that we're not finding out a year later that numbers aren't jibing?
If I may, I'll answer the second question, and then I'll allow LaShonda to answer the first question. So sorry about that, LaShonda. Since my memory is shorter, I'll answer the second question. So we're going to be requiring that they give periodic updates to the PCC so that we do not find out a year later. That's part of the accountability in this new key performance design that they're going to be using. And now I'm going to ask LaShonda to answer the first question.
If I may too, just in reading in the report, it's quarterly. So they will be, the report requires, or the performance improvement plan says quarterly reporting. To us, yes.
Thank you. So I am looking up right now the specific date for when we released the RFP. So we did do a request for proposals for a vendor to come in and provide kind of overflow services to support our transit van door-to-door service. And so we did an RFP, and actually, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, because I did not lead that RFP process, Lloyd Reese Brown, who's the project manager, did that. And she is actually retiring at the end of the calendar year, so she's not here. But I believe Transmetro was the only or one of two vendors that actually responded. The city has worked with Transmetro before, and so that is the vendor we selected. And I would have to go back and find exactly when that was done, but it may have been 18 months ago. We have only been working with Transmetro in this capacity since September of 2023.
And I believe the last, part was, does it mirror Lyft or does it mirror the Transit program?
It mirrors our transit. So individuals, when they call in to make an appointment for our traditional van service, the Transit van service, they call and they'll make an appointment. If we can, with our city drivers, pick them up or drop them off, we will do that ourselves. If not, we will let them know that we are going to work with with Transmetro to provide that ride. And so it's only, Transmetro only works as we need them to for overflow rides during the weekday and during our business hours.
Thank you for that. I just want to follow up and get at why I was asking that, because I was not clear. I was asking because in the presentation, it was noted that Lyft goes above and beyond what the paratransit hours are, which makes it more flexible for the rider. And I was asking because then people who use electric wheelchairs, for example, are still handcuffed to the 9 to 5 or whatever that window is. We're not doing something outside of those hours, so they're not getting parity in service. Not that you can. Yes, it's expensive. I'm not trying to put the whole world on you, but that's why I was asking for that distinction, and it's something that we as a body need to think about globally when we're looking at equity to accessible transportation. So thank you for your answer.
You're
If I
welcome.
may, yeah, thank you, Debbie. If I may add to that, some of the conversations that we've been having with the city of Richmond, besides the accountability measures, the KPIs, is that for them to look for ways to expand the opportunities when it comes to the WAVE vehicles or the wheelchair accessible vehicles. And so in the future, even though it's not written in this particular one, ideas like that will potentially come up to see about what they can do to expand the services that are different from the LIFT program, but where accessible transportation is more required. So those discussions, it took us about a year for us to come to this particular point and move it forward, but they have been open to the different ideas that may come up for them to be able to expand the wheelchair accessible services. So it's not a closed idea to the city of Richmond.
Thank you. Do I have any other comments? Member Sanderson?
Thank you, Chair. I don't know if this is all set in stone at this point, but there were a couple of things that I did not see in the performance metrics in the draft PIP, and I'm hoping I just missed them. But in particular, I did not see cost per trip and cost per vehicle service hour. And then also, to Member Toth's point, I didn't see anything that specifically goes to equivalent facilitation for clients who use mobility devices. So if Lyft is available for more hours than our transit city operated, then that sort of by definition means that there's more service available to ambulatory customers than to customers who use mobility devices. So I wonder what we can do to make sure that those metrics are also included. Thank you.
If I may, so to your point, I think we've already answered the one regarding that piggybacks on Debbie's comment. So what we've provided with our transit is a framework in order for them to do what they've done. We did not go into the weeds because we're not actually running the program for them in reference to the cost per trip. But something that has been significant, allowing their cost per trip to go up, is the cost pool. And in our conversations with the city of Richmond, the cost pool was going to be the deal breaker. And the fact that I think in the very beginning when we started this conversation, the cost pool is the reason why the cost per trip is significantly higher than any other provider. And so when they went to their council and the cost pool was reduced, we knew that they were definitely ready to play ball. So some of the finite details for this, as you know, we're not operators, CCTA are not operators, but we are gatekeepers because we have not managed their system or don't intend to manage their system. Each transit agency manages theirs. They have accountability measures. There's not a transit agency that takes Measure J claim in which, in other words, CCTA does not go out and say, County Connection, your cost per trip must be this, or Tri-Delta, your cost per trip must be this. So that's not something we decided to do. We did decide that it was important as the gatekeepers and to have some kind of accountability to give them a framework in which they needed to work on. And by really addressing the cost pool, which we knew was the number one indicator for literally a ridiculous amount of cost per trip. Once that was dealt with, we felt that this was baby steps and they could continue to work on it until they get themselves a program in which the cost per trip was comparable to what other people were doing.
And I do want to add that we are looking at that internally. So whether that comes in as a metric that you've seen listed, we are talking about that and looking at how can we, as a city, be more effective and efficient in the provision of services. And so I just want you to know that those are conversations we are having internally. And we have looked at our cost per trip for van service compared to our cost per trip for Lyft. Very different. And so, and then, looking at if you combine those, what does that look like? So that's all information we will be providing. If not we have our internal metrics that we're looking at and tracking. Also, we're going to be reporting back on a quarterly basis, and then as part of the annual Measure J claim form.
Thank you. Sanderson?
Yeah, I just want to clarify. I was not suggesting that we adopt enforceable standards for these things in the meantime. I was just asking that these things, we make sure to report them. Sunlight being the best disinfectant and all that. As far as I recall from the slideshow, and my numbers could be off, but you're asking for something like $1.6 million to deliver something in the neighborhood of 30,000 trips. That works out to about $53 a trip, which is totally fine with me. As a paratransit operator, that's quite good. I just think it's really important that we kind of keep our eye on that ball, not that we're holding a stick or anything. That's not my intention. I just want to make sure that we do keep track of the details that tell us how effective the program is from month to month. That's what I'm saying.
If I could, that's exactly what we intend to do. And we've already been looking at the dynamics between the types of services we provide, the costs, and why those costs are there. In the review plan, there is under budget and cost efficiency, a target metric. And it would be for our van service is to lower the cost from what it is now downward by the end of the second quarter of calendar year 2025, and even further than that by the end of calendar year. We'll try hard to do that, but there's a lot of dynamics when you start trying to reduce costs, and it has to do with different types of structures that we have with our existing contractor right now. With respect, though, to, it's a very interesting point you brought up about Lyft service. Lyft service is better than non-Lyft service because of just the business model, where it is 24/7. And it's very easy to do because you basically contact Lyft. You don't have to go through the city. So one way to equalize it, and nobody will want to do this, I believe, is you cut back the Lyft service so it isn't available Friday and Saturday. I don't think we want to do that. At the same time, it may not be really fair to demand, if it ever got to that the city of Richmond had to provide services on the weekend in van. The cost would just skyrocket. And also, it would not be really equitable with the other paratransit providers in our area. So what we're doing is we're facing a lot of issues, and there's a lot of balancing. And what you will get from the city of Richmond is, over the course of the next year plus, a little change, is I think some insights and information that could benefit really the entire county in its delivery of paratransit services.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Wayne.
I just want to be absolutely clear. I'm not requesting that the cost be brought down, just that the cost be reported. And if that is a thing that's going to be included in the quarterly reports, I'm happy with that, but I didn't see it in the PIP, so that was what brought it to mind. As regards Lyft, yes, it's true. You avoid providing better service by not providing the service that is better. It's not hard to get Lyft to geofence a particular pickup area for a redemption code, the way I think the system works. And it's not difficult to get Lyft to restrict it to specific service hours. So I would recommend you look into that. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Again, this item is about the performance improvement plan. Okay. Thank you. If anyone from the public would like to speak, please raise your hand or your virtual hand. Staff or I will call upon you. And Deanna, do we have anybody who's done that?
We have not received any written in-person nor public comments.
Okay. All right. Again, this is a motion to accept Richmond's Paratransit Performance Improvement Plan, the requirements and metrics. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion by Sanderson,
Second.
and I have a second by Smith. You want to conduct roll call?
Yes, Member Birdwell,
Yes.
Member Ibarra,
Yes.
Member Ridgway,
Yes.
Member Sanderson,
Yes.
Member Perry,
Yes.
Member Sanders,
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Toth,
Yes.
Member or Vice Chair Smith,
Yes.
and Chair Clark.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously with members Cooney, Dowdjelly, Green, Roselle, and Reese Brown absent.
Thank you. The next item is an action item as well to be presented by Rashida regarding the approval of the City of Richmond's fiscal year 2024-2025 Measure J Program 15 claim.
So this one is actually short and sweet because you almost made the decision already. Now that you've actually approved that Richmond keep the program, the idea is that they'll need funds to run the program. As you know, the Measure J claims were submitted earlier in the year. The City of Richmond did not submit a complete claim. Now that they've had a few months with the software that they're using, some of the changes that they made to the system, they were able to get quite a bit of data that they were not able to get before. And as a result, they submitted their 24-25 Measure J claim. The subcommittee met. That had to be I know I was calling in favors. That had to be the fastest. You guys really pulled it off. I'm so proud of you guys. It really gives me goosebumps at how collaborative everybody was working on this project. But anyway, the subcommittee met, and after reviewing the claim form and also asking questions, and the City of Richmond staff individuals answering the questions, the subcommittee recommended the approval of the claim. So with having said that, the staff has brought the subcommittee's recommendation to the full PCC, and they are recommending approval of the City of Richmond's fiscal year 24-25 Measure J claim, Measure J Program 15 claim. And I'll take questions.
Questions or comments from the committee? Council.
So this is Debbie Toth. It's for a full year of funding as opposed to quarterly with the reporting? Is that accurate?
For now, the recommendation is for the full year.
Can there be a caveat in there having to do with lack of performance? I just want to be careful that we're being judicious with this. There is a long history of getting a lot of money in Richmond and not providing any services, and I feel we have opened the bag on this. I feel like everything that should be done has been done. I feel a lot more confidence in what's happening now, and it feels like everybody knows what's going on. I want to see the performance. So I don't know if there's a way to approve that with a caveat pending those quarterly reports, or in conjunction with those, that they must meet certain metrics. I don't know how that would work, but.
So I actually have a thought on that. Normally we approve a full year for those that put the claim in. As of when we concluded this audit, the City of Richmond has been running the service without any Measure J funding. And so as part of this collaboration, at least this last 6 months, so frankly, they're actually stretching out this money longer than they normally would. So they've already spent the first 5 months of this fiscal year. What month is this? This is November. So technically, they spent 5 months of this fiscal year doing the service without Measure J claim funds. They are now starting this on a calendar year. So their fiscal year is changing for the purpose of this project. And so this money that we're giving them technically is spreading over almost a year and a half. And so that's the reason why we're giving them opportunities as they continue to be successful for them to be able to reach back and get additional funding through previous years. So they're going to be giving quarterly reports. I think that we can kind of stay ahead of this. The point of the matter is that if Richmond does not perform, which I doubt very much that they're putting themselves in this kind of space so that they don't perform, if Richmond does not perform, there has already been discussions about our potentially looking and putting out some kind of an RFP so that another agency, which is part of the recommendation in the first place, to be able to do the service. So in staff's opinion, the fact that they've been running this service with their own funds, the fact that we're extending the period of time without necessarily extending the full year of money in which we're being approved right now, I think Richmond is in a good position to accept this 1 year's claims money.
Chair, may I add to
Yes.
it? Member Toh, thank you for your comments and suggestion. I just want to unpack that a bit more because there are kind of two issues. One is the principle of whether this committee would like to see the funds be paid to Richmond upfront or over installments. The other piece is the claim itself. So the recommendation in front of you, the PCC, is to approve the claim. We do have to go back to our board to deal with the fiscal piece, the allocation piece. So with this council's concurrence or agreement or action, you can add to the staff recommendation if that's the wish. Like the staff recommendation in front of you is to approve the claim, the more technical piece that per the PCC subcommittee's recommendation. You are welcome with the action to add conditions to then staff have to decide whether we move your recommendation to our board. I hope I didn't make it too complicated, but I just want to separate out those two related but separate issues.
I also wanted to add in, and correct me if I'm wrong, but as they turn in their quarterly reports, they are then eligible for prior fiscal year money. So, correct? Right.
Go ahead.
So that if they don't perform, they don't get prior year money as well. So when I was reading through that performance improvement plan, I thought, okay, so there is also another buy-in for, all right, produce, the idea of using this year's fiscal 24-25 to produce, and if you do that, then you are actually eligible for prior year fiscal money that you did not receive. To me, that was kind of that hook, because if you don't perform, you are going to lose money. I don't know if that's sufficient or that's the direction that this council wants to go, but I just wanted to point that out in the performance improvement plan, that's one of the contingents, is that when they provide that quarterly report, if it's accurate, if it's accepted, then they have options to some of their prior year money that they didn't get because of incomplete claim forms. Sanderson.
Yeah, I understand the distinction about approving the claim, and I'll be supporting it. I was going to suggest, is it possible to extend the sort of review period beyond just the 1 year? I would have liked to see 2 or even 3 years, given the history here. That's my comment.
If I may, the each quarter when it comes in, we will have an opportunity to make that determination. I think making that determination now may be putting the cart in front of the horse. We haven't done an audit of anybody before, and this has taken a year to put this together. CCTA has spent an incredible amount of time, also with the city of Richmond, to be able to do this. As Chair Clark mentioned earlier, them being able to dip into past money is dependent on performance. This current plan that has been put in front of them, if they do not perform within a year, there may be, we're having real life discussions about whether or not Richmond should keep the program. For the past 6 months, though, the city of Richmond has definitely been vast improvements in the services that they've been able to provide and also the data that they've been able to capture. If we look at this, 3 quarters in and determine that, improvement is incremental, and they come in for another measure, and at that time we say, you know what, we want to review you for another year, I think that's more than reasonable right off the bat. But we have to be able to give everybody, the city of Richmond, including the CCTA staff, because there's not a lot of staff at CCTA to watch this as closely as we've watched this and present this as closely as we have presented this. So in collaboration with the PCC, as each report is brought out, then I think that a decision for what should be done because of what they have presented should probably be made at that time. That's just my recommendation.
Can I make a comment, or do I need to wait for someone to acknowledge?
If you'd like, yes, you may.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that. So I just want to be clear, the city of Richmond is asking for, and I've had this conversation with the city manager, our full funding for the current fiscal year. So when the city of Richmond in fiscal year 23-24 submitted our claim, it triggered questions and an audit was done. So the city of Richmond provided services throughout fiscal year 23-24 without any funding. And we provided services 22-23 without funding and half of 21-22 without funding. So we have received no funding since halfway through 21-22. And as we went through an audit, we did not feel like there was an option to not provide a service while we went through an audit. So in good faith, the city of Richmond provided lift service, van-to-van, door-to-door service via city staff, door-to-door service via Transmetro. We did outreach. We did a lot. And we went through the audit, answered questions while providing services with no funding. And we have went almost 6 months by the time this goes to CCTA board in 24-25 of providing services with no funding. And so I understand there has been some concerns about past performance. I think we have shown in our actions that we are really turning the corner and have different software system. We are getting our vans up and running. We have a consultant on board. We're doing a lot of things that we weren't doing before to show that we are providing the service that we are being requested to provide and showing that there's a path for continuous improvement. But if this body decides not to recommend funding for the full fiscal year, we will have to go back to our city council with different information because we are in the negative over $1.6 million right now in terms of providing services. And doesn't include the current fiscal year. So it is really important for us to be able to continue to provide services, which we have done while we have been going through this audit for 1.5 years, that we have funding to be able to do so. And we need it to cover what we've done so far this fiscal year and then for the next 6 months moving forward. And I did, one of the board members made a comment that Richmond was getting funding for not providing service. We have never not provided service. I just want to be very clear for the record. We have not been, we could have done much better at providing accurate data, better data, which means we had to collect the data, which we're doing now, but we have never not provided service in a year. So I just want to make that clear for the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any other comments or questions from the board? Ridgeway?
Yeah, I'm sorry, this is a follow-up to what you were saying about the way the money would be distributed. I heard it's the lump sum up front. What was the alternative?
We could put conditions, and we can put that in the staff recommendation when we go to our planning committee and the board, when we request them to authorize the release of the Measure J 15 funds. We can put a schedule that can be one form. Rashida and I haven't talked about this alternative, whether we do that, but you as the PCC, you have the right to put that condition when you approve this item. That is your recommendation for our board's consideration. I just want to remind the members that our staff recommendation in front of you is only to approve the claim form itself.
Thank you.
Anyone else? So I heard a couple of comments was the potential to put a schedule out for payments for this fiscal year. I also heard a comment was to extend the evaluation period as part of this. Do I have any comments about that? Anybody else? Member Ridgeway?
I wonder if it's a new motion on the board, if we can vote separately. So vote for the Measure J claim and then vote separately for the performance period review.
Yes.
I wonder if we could approve the claim and then also, speaking as the PCC, make a recommendation to the 2CTA board that they consider these things that we're talking about?
Is that acceptable? Okay.
So staff suggestion is for you to have a motion that is modified from the staff recommendation. So then your recommendation to our board is intact rather than two separate ones. Because if you did just approve staff recommendation and have a separate motion, it could be interpreted as two separate motions with not related to each other. So I think reading Member To's mind, if I may,
Scary place to be.
I'm shaking that, is there maybe you wish, or maybe there is a wish to tie these two pieces into one motion, so they are is a condition. So I don't know if I'm reading your mind, but your members are welcome to make a motion that is a modified version of the staff recommendation.
And so just so I want to understand too regarding funding. So right now, everybody else got their money or is getting their money for their 24-25 service, right? Right now, Richmond's been doing 6 months without funding, has been providing service without funding for that. A potential recommendation is to wait until we get another quarterly report? No? Yeah.
So
Yes.
this is Debbie, sorry. Pay them for what they've done, approve the claim for the year, and make the next two payments, so they get 6 months of payments. Wait until the next quarterly report. Once it's received, pay them for that quarter. Once it's received, pay them for the next quarter. I had different information about rides not being provided, staff not being hired. I heard for years there was zero service happening in Richmond. So I have a very different knowledge base than what's being presented today. So that may be true for the last 3 years, but there were years before that where there were vehicles and no drivers, and the city was getting paid full Measure J claims dollars for zero service. That was what I was told by the person who was running the program in Richmond. So that's what my history is and knowledge is of it. So I'm hyper concerned. I want to express I am very heartened by the process. I believe that they've done a deep, deep dive. I believe they're doing an incredible job with what they're providing right now. Nothing bad about that, but there is a big, long history, and we should not have waited as long as we did to actually pull this and elevate this in the way that we have. And so I just want to be judicious. If we're paying back money, there's a performance indicator that says, okay, now we're going to pay you for 3 years ago service, where we didn't even have numbers of how many rides. There were 22,000 rides or there were 3. Like, there were such large discrepancies. So there's got to be something that's judicious about the way that this rolls out. We've got numbers from them. They provided 6 months of service with no pay. Pay them. Pay them the 6 months. But I think every other provider of service is paying and being reimbursed, providing service and being reimbursed, providing service, being reimbursed. If I understand that incorrectly, if there's a different standard that's being met here, I'm missing something perhaps.
Just for clarification, how the Measure J program 15 works. When our board took the action to approve the allocation, that's after the PCC already approved the claims. So all the rest of them, 6 out of 7, got approved. So our board approved the allocation, and when CCTA makes a payment, we pay it 45%, 10%. That has nothing to do with the performance. That it just to do with when we receive the sales tax revenue. So it's more a finance team's exercise, not based on performance, because all your claims have been approved by the PCC. So you are welcome to recommend a different payment schedule that is based on performance, based on review of additional information. That is the wish of the PCC. Staff does have to evaluate whether we roll that into our staff recommendation. Without our staff being, CCTA staff having an internal discussion, it's a bit premature for us to say we'll carry it, but we definitely will reflect the PCC's recommendation. We just have to see how it plays out, whether staff will be able to roll that into our staff recommendation. We didn't anticipate this particular desire, but appreciate this really good discussion.
If I may, though, agencies are paid prior to the service.
Correct.
Right.
But after the claim was approved.
Right, once the claim's approved, but then they get their money to actually provide the service. So service providers aren't paid after they provide the service. Regularly, service providers, once the claim is approved, are given money to do it for yet another year. So that's different than what
I'm familiar with. So thank you for the clarification, because ours operates, we provide the service, we get reimbursed from the grant on 20A, which is a different program.
This is different.
Okay,
Yeah, this is
okay,
narrowly
okay.
for program 15.
So
yeah.
my misunderstanding. I don't know how this body wants to feel like they're being judicious about this, because I think that there's a gravity to this situation. But I also think that there's performance, and there's been a lot of goodwill and effort on staff that are new to this process and really diving in, and I want to acknowledge that and recognize that, but I also want us to have some judiciousness around it. So I don't know what folks feel like. I've said my piece, and I've said the most piece.
I'm going to recognize Sanderson, but I also want to say that Rashida and LaShonda, I do see your hands, so after Sanderson.
Yeah, the way I understand these things, we approve the claim, which creates a pot of money that can then be drawn down to provide service, but doesn't immediately release it as cash. So I don't see much of an issue there. Also, I do think we've seen some really impressive turnaround here, and that does deserve to be recognized. I think that's requires some trust on both sides. So my suggestion would be, let's approve the claim now and just watch it very carefully over the next year, see how it goes. We'll get another chance at this in a year if it becomes an issue.
Okay. Rashida, I'll just go in the order that I saw the hands. So, Rashida.
Thank you. First of all, great discussion, great questions. We've been doing this for a long time, so the fact that everybody's sitting up and trying to pay attention to this is a good thing. I would like to say, though, as we start to make these recommendations and make changes to our processes, we are going to start setting a precedent in this area. So that means that all transit agencies that receive Measure J claim forms, as we start to change this and the PCC subcommittees get really proficient at looking at these numbers, they could make these types of decisions for not just services like the City of Richmond, who has demonstrated some, challenges over the years, but also as they start to question other programs that receive Measure J funds. So this is the staff's recommendation. I think that as John had mentioned, there are opportunities throughout the different quarters in order to review this. There are opportunities to deny past claims based on performance, and there's also something in which we've put in place in which the City of Richmond will not continue the service at all. And so now CCTA staff, with the rest of the transit agencies out there, would have to figure out a way to find services for the City of Richmond. But for the first step, this has been I think it's important to consider also what Ying had mentioned earlier about how these funds are drawn down. So these programs do not necessarily get reimbursed for services. So as we're approving these funds, it's for the year, and as they are receiving, based on performance and are receiving past funds, it's almost as if we're trying to make them whole. So I think that given all of this information that has been put before you, the PCC can, even with the current staff recommendation, be judicious. The recommendation itself provides the accountability. There's not a transit agency in here in which we write out KPIs the way that we have written out KPIs. So all of this has acted and can make you feel judicious about how we are presenting this particular staff report and recommendation to the PCC. And I'll just say that.
Thank you. LaShonda?
Thank you again. I just want to, just for the record, because there was another mention that there may have been years where the City of Richmond was receiving funding but providing no services. So I can only speak to fiscal year 21-22 moving forward. I have been, as a deputy city manager of many different divisions, I have been at the table in the weeds in a way that normally I wouldn't be, because this is a really important program to our residents. This is a really important program to our council. And we want to make sure we are providing the services necessary. Since I have been involved since fiscal year 21-22, as stated, we have not received funding from Measure J, but we have continued to provide services. You have seen the growth in Lyft service. We have continued to provide door-to-door service. There has never been a year, a time, a month since fiscal year 21-22 since I have been involved. So if that helps people have a little more confidence, we have always provided service. We have always provided services fiscal year 21-22, 22-23, 23-24, and we are still providing services in 24-25 because it is important. So I just really, for the record, I don't want it to be a narrative that we have received funding and not done anything. Since I have been involved, that has not been the case. We have city staff that are providing services. We have been innovative and went with Lyft so that we can provide more services to our individuals who are ambulatory in the evenings and weekends so they can have increased freedom. And we even, contracted with a vendor so we could not turn down any rides. So I just want to put that out for the record. We have been very serious about the work we're doing and trying to do better at collecting the right data so we can provide the right data, making sure we're meeting the needs of our residents and those of the unincorporated area. So thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments from board members? Sanders?
Yes, I'm struck that, number one, we have staff that has not placed any limitation or contingency upon the distribution of funds. They have not recommended that. I assume, as a new person on the block, I assume that we all recognize that our staff has been closest to the numbers and taking a look at the differences between what happened in the past and that which is happening now. I'm also, I thought I heard very clearly from the deputy city manager that there is a concern about the ability to carry on at the level that they are carrying on, much less to improve that level, if we don't provide at least a minimal amount of the funding that they anticipate. They are obviously anticipating. I recognize the concern that you expressed, and I too share some reservations. But if I'm going to err, I think I'm going to err on the side of following my staff. They're my people, and I have every reason to believe that they will have done that which they've done with knowledge of these concerns that we're expressing. I haven't heard a novel concern here. I've just heard a concern that we're not quite as trusting as we might otherwise be. I think Mr. Sanderson's, or Member Sanderson's perspective was appropriate, and I think that is where my head is at on this.
Thank you. Anything else? I'd just like, as someone who also reviewed the claim form, I'd also like to say that I was duly impressed with what they tried to provide for the previous years. Looking at it, there was lots of asterisks, lots of, we don't have this information, but we have this information. This is how we're extrapolating this information to this. I appreciated that. It made me feel much better about this, and it made sense, as opposed to, I know this council has seen previous years where the claim forms made absolutely no sense. These made sense. They went back and they provided information. I'd also like to say too that we did it very quickly, but we had a page of questions that they turned around and then answered, that again all matched what they had put in the claim form. It was making sense. It was coming together. So that, just because I was on the review committee, I just wanted to say I had a little more interaction with that, and I feel really confident. I feel really confident in the fact that they have been under review for a year and a half, starting with the audit, that they will be under review for the next 6 months because they have 2 quarterly reports to turn in. So for me, that's 2 years of review in my mind. And I do think it's a risk, absolutely. But in the past, from what I've heard, is the information we're getting is just not accurate. It's not making any kind of sense. We can't make any kind of sense of it. And the information that has been provided is such a huge difference from what's been provided in the past. So I'd like to think that that would continue because we're actually being given the information. So that's my 2 cents on it. Yes, Vice Chair Smith.
I'd like to add my 2 cents as well. When I came on the council about 4 or 5 years ago, this was a hot issue that was being discussed. And we had lots of questions, very few answers at that time. But since then, the city of Richmond has shown a desire to address the concerns of the council that are raised. And I too was on the review committee that, on this, and we raised a myriad of questions to the Richmond staff. They answered each and every one of them. And it was consistent with what they had been reporting to us. My concern would be that without this funding, we're setting the city of Richmond and their paratransit system and the constituencies that they are serving up for failure. We can put an undue load of consequential, I don't want to insult anyone, but of consequential data that would be overburdened to a program that is operating on very, very little staff, and almost no drivers. And without this funding, we've heard that the city of Richmond, I believe the figure I heard was $1.5 million in the red from their general fund. I cannot see the city of Richmond continuing to fund a program based on these kinds of losses. So without this Measure J funding, we're setting them up for failure. And I concur with Chair Clark that this is a risk very well worth assuming. Because for us not to assume this risk, we're setting the program up for failure. And a whole constituency of customers are left without service while the CCTA scrambles around to find additional providers to pick it up. So I recommend with acceptance and with the stipulations that's built in terms of the follow-ups quarterly, biannually, and annually. As a council, I think we can very well be able to help the city of Richmond manage the distribution of funds and programs to get the maximum benefit to the riders. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Vice Chair Smith. Do we have any other comments, questions? Okay, so after the discussion, I want to make sure that I have it correct. I think we are going to do as it stands, which is a motion to approve the City of Richmond's fiscal year 24-25 Measure J Program 15 claim form as recommended by staff, CCTA staff.
Yeah, you still need a motion.
No, I just wanted to make sure that that
Okay.
was, okay, so that's the motion. So I need a motion and a second to approve the City of Richmond's fiscal year 24-25 Measure J Program 15 claim form.
I'll second.
I need a motion,
Excuse me.
but I'll take it, yeah.
Take it as a motion.
Okay, so I have a motion by Sanders
I'll second.
and a second by Sanderson. Deanna?
Roll call, Member Birdwell,
Yes.
Member Ibarra,
Yes.
Member Ridgway. She actually had to leave at 3:30 and abstained. Member Sanderson,
Yes.
Member Perry,
Yes.
Member Sanders,
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Smith,
Yes.
and Chair Clark,
Yes.
and Member Toth. Sorry.
Yes.
I was like, wait.
My apologies. The motion passes with a majority. Members Cooney, Dalgelli, Green, Roselle, and Reese Brown absent, and Ridgway abstaining.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for that discussion.
Thank
This
you.
con-
Just wanted to say thank you. We appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you very much. That concludes our regular agenda items. Next, we have reports, and do we have anything, I think Ridgway, but anything from the East Bay Paratransit Access Committee? All right. Well, I know we have Jim Donnelly here to give our Senior Mobility Action Council update.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we're continuing. We had a good presentation last week from Lindy Johnson on the pilot programs for autonomous vehicles. Both what's going on in San Ramon, Rossmore, and the newer program in Martinez. Our next meeting is December 17th, and I think we'll be talking with people from Senior Moment. Anyway, we'll be having another presentation. That'll be it for the year.
All right. Thank you.
And we're still waiting for more people to respond back on the surveys we sent out about the impacts of COVID.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Do we have any correspondence and communication that was not in the packet?
Yes, we do. We have a comment from Terry Ann Grover, please.
Okay.
Hello, good afternoon, Paratransit Coordinating Council. I wanted to bring a exciting update to you from the October 30th board meeting. Back in March of 2023, the board adopted a reasonable accommodations policy for all of our legislative body meetings. And earlier this year, at the end of July, the Attorney General issued opinion number 231002, which concluded that under the ADA and the Brown Act, a legislative body of a special district could allow remote participation in a meeting as a reasonable accommodation for a member of the legislative body with a qualifying disability. That precludes the member's in-person attendance at meetings subject to the requirements of the Brown Act. So we took this to the board on October 30th and got board approval to revise our policy to add language in there to allow members of all of our legislative bodies, including our standing and advisory committees and the board, to be able to participate remotely. If you've completed a form, we're going to have a form that's going to be coming out. We're finalizing that now, so we'll get that email communications out to you, as well as this new revised policy. And the form will need to be submitted to authority staff at least 5 business days before the meeting. And once approved, the member would be able to attend the meeting remotely. And what's really great about this is that we can include that member as part of the quorum. So we won't have, it'll help us with any kind of quorum issues. Also, as part of this, some of the requirements are that the member has to have a 2-way audio and video. They have to have audio and video 2-way, meaning that they have to participate via Zoom. So you can't just call into the meeting. And the other requirement is that you have to announce any adults in the household over the age of 18. So we'll, at the beginning of the meeting, if anyone's attending remotely in this, under this requirement, we would ask that they let us know, announce that their name and that they're attending remotely and who's present in the household. So this is really, really great news and great advancement for our members to be able to access and attend these meetings. And so we'll be getting that out soon, so keep an eye out for that. You don't have to disclose, your type of disability. You just have to disclose that you have a disability and that you're requesting a reasonable accommodation, and that reasonable accommodation is to attend the meeting remotely. So yeah, so keep an eye out, and we'll be sending that out hopefully soon.
That's great. That's great. Member Toth?
Terry Ann, I just want to thank you personally. I can tell you all that through the wrapping up of remote meetings and the ending of the declared emergency for the pandemic, Terry Ann was a huge advocate for accessibility of meetings and having people be able to participate in a way that was meaningful for them. And she continues to elevate disability and access. And I deeply appreciate you. Thank you. I went to that board meeting. I thank the CCTA board, and Terry Ann is really the glue behind that. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that publicly, but I am just extremely grateful. So thank you.
Thank you. And Debbie, we couldn't do it without you as well and your support in this area as well. So we really appreciate your support and following up and keeping us also in the loop of everything that's going on in this area as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Anybody else? I just had a comment too, because I know how discouraged we were when we were told that all had to come back in person, and for those that we were trying to get on the council that had accessibility challenges, absolutely. So this is fantastic. So I just wanted to say, I know it's a long time coming as well. I hope now maybe we'll be able to fill our roster with some writers and get a couple more people on the PCC, some more writer representatives, that this might open that up. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, and I did also forget to note that it also is allowed from a non-public meeting location, which is also great because it means that you don't have to, if you're going to participate from your home, you don't have to notate that on the agenda. So that's also really nice. And you don't have to post the agenda at your house, all this stuff. You have to have it open to the public. So also, this is also just all really just great advancements in this area.
Fantastic. Member Ibarra?
Sort of related to this topic, I understand that if committee members in the future are attending remotely, they need to have video camera on. But I'm personally interested to know also just who our virtual audience, do we have a virtual audience? And what I'm seeing here today is that when people turn their videos on, they pop up on the screen that we have access to, but we do not see, I don't know if this is the hottest ticket in town and we have hundreds of people observing us. I suspect it probably is. So,
of course.
I think it would be nice, I don't know if this is just a question for staff or what, but if the view that we have here from in the room could just include that panel on the side that shows us if there are people in the room. I certainly understand that community members can attend anonymously and they can change their name to just be whatever they want it to be. But I would just be interested to know, do we even have an audience at every meeting, not just today, but at every meeting? Thank you.
Typically, we don't have a large audience. It's typically just people that are presenting, or maybe agency staff or city or our staff that are on here. We do conduct these with a Zoom webinar, so we don't have the ability to show you the panel and who's participating. However, because they're attending as an attendee, you can't see them, but anyone that comes in as a panelist or is promoted to a panelist like myself, and if I turn on my video, then you can see me on the screen. So the webinar features do limit our ability to be able to we lock it down basically to prevent Zoom bombing, and it also allows for security and safety measures in our meetings as well.
Sanderson?
Yeah, I completely understand about the Zoom bombing. We had some bad old days of that, it seems to me, at a lot of different agencies a couple years ago. But I still think, as Member Ibarra said, it would be awfully nice if we could hear just how many attendees there are. Right now, we don't know if we're talking to a digital empty room or, a massive coliseum.
I can add to that. We have 4 attendees.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
It'd be great if we did know that at meetings. That would be nice. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Deanna can look that up anytime for you.
Excellent. All right. Anything else?
We can also pull reports from Zoom as well. So if anyone wants to know about any meeting, we can let you know that as well.
Thank you. Okay, so if we don't have any questions or comments on that, I'll move on to future agenda items.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes,
Question.
yes. Member Sanders.
The speaker earlier spoke about text services for riders. Is there any knowledge at this table about whether or not it's a possibility? Any of the services that are provided?
I just checked with my IT director. It is possible. It's not necessarily cheap. I don't necessarily care that it's not cheap. That's something I'm going to push really hard. I don't know if upgrading the phone system so that it does text messaging or another platform or something like that is the way to go, but it seems to me pretty straightforward that you should be able to communicate with a keyboard to a reservationist. So I don't see why we can't make that happen.
Is that something that we can keep on an agenda for future so that it's not lost? It seemed to me that her thoughts were compelling. They were worthwhile.
Yes.
So
Member Perry.
at our agency, we have an easy book system, which is web-based, and a passenger or passenger's family can go in and schedule a ride. With that said, it's often had issues, which has been my complaint, that people go in and they have problems, or they create a password, they can't reset it, and they forget their password, and it's complicated. It can be complicated. I've had a numerous amount of customers ask me if I can text them a phone number or scheduling phone number and things like that. I've actually done it from my work phone. I have asked our HR director, who is in charge of our phone system, because we replaced our phone system fairly recently, and he tells me that yes, it can be done, and yes, it is ridiculously expensive. But that is something I'm going to push because we're getting more and more inquiries. These are just the ones I'm hearing about. So I can only imagine other employees are hearing more than I'm hearing if I'm getting, quite a few. So that is something I'll definitely be looking into. John, I might hook up with you on that.
Yeah,
to see if
let's compare
we can
notes.
buddy up. Okay,
Definitely.
sounds good.
Ibarra?
So
Member Ibarra?
might I suggest then that the upcoming agenda item might be from each of the transit providers, just maybe a 1 or 2 slide summary of how people connect with your agency for things like scheduling, rescheduling, et cetera. And I don't know if there's a distinction between text, like via text on my phone, versus maybe a chat function on a website that I could still do via keyboard on my phone. But a presentation that would include the ways that riders can connect with your agency.
That's actually what I was going to suggest, was that we could ask transit providers to just provide that update on it.
Thank you all.
Yeah. I know City of San Pablo, we're looking at purchasing new software that makes the promise. I'm skeptical as well, but makes the promise that will allow people to do on-demand booking and also be able to do a web-based chat to do booking. We don't have that available right now, but we're looking into doing that to make it more accessible. Member Toth?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think Triple CTA has chat box or something like that, and there's a transit app. Like, there's stuff that everybody has. I don't know how user-friendly it is, so I do think that it's important that we have that conversation, because I think that will also hopefully bring more people to the table who can express to us the ways in which they'd like to be able to communicate, so that we can actually put the two together and figure something out. And what a great use for Measure J or Measure X funds potentially to increase our accessibility. So, love that.
So I guess us transit providers just gave ourselves a little task for January, our next meeting. Okay. Anything else that people would like to see on the January agenda?
Yes,
Yes.
please. I would be interested in a report out from the Measure J committee, the review subcommittee. It sounds like you all went through a pretty interesting process. I think I was on some kind of committee about that back in the summer.
You were.
I would be interested to hear. It sounds like you got a bunch of good inside baseball about the Richmond thing, and I would just be really interested to hear kind of about that experience.
Okay. Do you want all the Measure J committee, including you?
No. I'm specific to the Richmond one.
Specific to Richmond, okay.
That could be maybe in conjunction with Richmond's quarterly report.
Mm-hmm. Anything else for a future agenda? I do know, I believe that we still need to do an East Bay Paratransit Access Committee representative from the PCC. Don was Queen, right?
I do believe Donald Queen might be reinstated, so I'm not sure about that yet,
Oh.
but we can
Okay.
chat offline about that,
Okay.
according to the new measures.
Yeah, I don't want to lose that. I know it was like on and then off and then on, so I just want to make sure that that is on our agenda so that we don't lose it. But if Don Queen is returning, especially based on new legislation, would make it easier, that's actually wonderful. I think Kim intends to. Yes, yeah. But they need a writer. She staffs it. So we need an actual, yeah. Okay. Anything else? Agenda-wise? Yes. Oh, wow, okay. So this concludes our meeting. Meeting is adjourned at 3:52 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
All right, wow, okay.
It's there.
All right.
I'm Debbie.
Recording stopped.